Okay, so welcome to Sacred Intimacy Talk. It's really hard to talk about, to label this because it's not really a workshop and it's not only me talking. So it's more like a share where you get to participate because the topic is love and the topic is huge. So a lot of people in my field, they don't work with couples because it's too much. And a lot of people in my field, they don't talk about relationships also because it's too much. Relationships have so many dimensions and they tend to be very complicated, and especially romantic relationships. Last week, someone asked here, because we talk about sacred intimacy, and this person asked, well, can't we have sacred intimacy with our friends? My very short answer was, we don't have sex with them. So there is something so unique, there is something so profoundly unique about a very close romantic relationship that is a different container than any other relationship we can have in our lives. Because it's so multidimensional, it includes all the dimensions of us, including the sexual, including the emotional. And if the relationship is actually sacred, then it can also include spirituality. And we don't necessarily include all these dimensions of our being in our relationships with our friends. So there is something so unique about sacred intimacy in the context of romantic, sexual, emotional, long-term, committed relationship. So that's what this talk is all about. It's not any sacred connection, but it's the specific one that is about romantic relationships. Yeah, so there's somehow this empty area right there. If anyone would like to come closer, there's this area, this here, this here. Don't be afraid. Okay, great. Thank you for being brave. Yeah. So the topic is sacred intimacy because I think intimacy is sacred, and I've been looking at this kind of stuff for 20 years since my first real breakup that really broke me when I was 21. And I kept on looking at love and deeper and deeper and deeper. I went into spiritual practice. I've been a meditator for more than 20 years in a Buddhist tradition. But I'm also a psychotherapist, somatic therapy, trauma work, all of that. So through my own healing, somehow I might sound like I know something. But actually, it's the opposite. It's not like somehow I haven't accumulated knowledge. It's more like what's been happening through my healing and spirituality, so psychology and spirituality together. What's been happening in my life is that I know less and less. And when we know less and less, that means we're not living up here. We are actually living in the body. And when we are embodied, that also includes the heart. There's an intelligence here, a very unique intelligence, very profound intelligence. It's not so valued in our culture, unfortunately. And there is also an intelligence here, the hara, in a lot of martial arts, right? The life force. In a lot of martial arts with a spiritual depth, what they teach us, what the master is teaching the student in the martial art is how to live with your energy being centered here. So definitely not here. And our entire culture lives here. Yeah. So everything we think we know about relationships, we have to get rid of because it's garbage. Because it's so intellectual. And it creates a distancing between what is true and real to the intelligence of the heart and to the intelligence of the guts when we live here. And everything we know about relationship has usually come from Hollywood or some TV show or some stupid whatever. So we have all this accumulated knowledge and conditioning, male conditioning, female, man, woman, all the different genders. And that conditioning actually is the distance between me and my romantic partner. That conditioning becomes the distance between me and whoever else I want to feel close to. that conditioning is like a mental, emotional barrier, a wall, including our trauma wounds and our attachment wounds, including all the confusion we have accumulated in our lives about what romantic relationships are about, or what the potential about it might be. So, any questions or comments so far? I usually don't remember what I say, so you can always ask questions. Yeah. So far makes sense? Great. Because there's a reason why you are here. If you were already satisfied with the bullshit from outside, from society and cultural conditioning, you would not have come to this place, to this space of sacred intimacy. Yeah. Oh, I think can someone open the door? There's someone looking around. When the door is closed, sometimes they don't want to come in. He's on the right side. Oh, okay. Waiting for someone. Great. More people are coming. So I always feel really grateful when I see other men here, because I don't want to be the only one in this space. So thank you for coming. And the world is not going to become a better place without us, right? So men also doing their work, right? Yeah. So when I was thinking about a title for this talk, I just knew that the word sacred had to be in it, because there's some depth that romantic relationships are capable of that somehow I think we have lost in the world. We have lost spirit or universal energy or God, whatever you call it, doesn't matter, or nature or being with a B capital. We've lost something. And we've lost something in the bedroom, we've lost something in the kitchen, we've lost something in the living room, we just lost something. And that something, to me, if I want to use a neutral word that can be understood by a lot of people, is sacred. We have lost sacredness in every part of our lives, but also in romantic relationships. So what's been really important for me in my life is to bring back sacredness into my own relationship with myself, through healing work, and into my relationship with my friends and close family members, but even more so in romantic relationships, which is where it's the most difficult. Again, why is the most difficult? Because in romantic sexual relationships, all our dimensions need to be clearly working together for things to feel healthy. And we don't want, of course, only a healthy relationship, right? Like, it sounds even boring a little bit. We don't only want a secure relationship. Nowadays, everybody is all about secure attachment, this and that. It's good, but it's not good enough. How about sacred intimacy? Not only healthy, how about sacred? How about deeper than healthy, deeper than secure? Because we can want more. It's okay to want more. Doesn't mean we are entitled little children. It just means that we have a depth that we want to live in our relationships and want to kind of go all the way with that one person. But this doesn't mean codependency, because someone else might be saying exactly the same thing and they talk about codependency. It's not that. And sacred intimacy can very easily be misunderstood as codependency. Because in codependency, people are trying to get really close in all the unhealthy ways. But in sacred intimacy, we are wanting to get close in all the healthy ways. And as an experiment, it's almost like sacred intimacy. If it was a question, it's like, I wonder, without losing myself, how close I can get to you. And if we are mutual in that understanding and depth, then my partner is also doing the same thing. Without losing her sense of self, how close can she get to me? So this is an adventure in intimacy. But if we lose ourselves, it becomes codependency. If we stay too far apart, it becomes what I started calling modern love. Like, I have my space, she has her space, there's just so much space, everybody's talking about space. But what about intimacy? What about vulnerability? Like, there's space for space, right? There's a space for healthy space.
But if
only thing we're talking about is space, it's just as unfulfilling as codependency, in which there is no space and we suffocate each other. So I've had a few codependent relationships in my life, for sure. And codependency creates an amazing place where, through the suffering of it, we learn. Because we really learn through suffering, right? We are, despite our high intelligence as human beings, we learn through pain. We learn through suffering. Because then we don't want to suffer, and then we look at why we are suffering, and then we kind of come out of suffering through that awareness, through that seeing. Who can say here honestly that they've been in a codependent relationship before? Yeah? Yeah. So if you were to say a few words about it, what could be some traits or qualities or the dynamics of a codependent relationship?
feels like a drug.
Feels like a drug, yeah. We really get addicted, right? It's a high. We want more of it and more.
And that way the highs can feel even more intense because of the lows.
The highs feel more intense because of the lows, yeah.
You feel so much higher than the lows.
Yeah.
Whether when you're stable-ish, it's not like this.
Yeah. Like after a big fight or not talking for a few days, suddenly getting back together is such a huge high. And then suddenly the high might make it look like everything's amazing, but it really isn't, right? Because in a codependent relationship, because we are not practicing healthy connection, we are also not practicing healthy taking care of issues. That's why things continue, problems continue, right? The same argument comes and the same cycle, the same. Nobody's really changing. In codependency, we are not really invested in being different or like being more of who we truly are. We are not interested so much in healing. We are interested in feeling whole through the other person. Yeah, but usually we're not aware, so it's very innocent too. It's not like we gotta blame ourselves for it. It's very innocent. It kind of happens on its own until the pain gets to such a degree that we have to open our eyes. We have to see what's happening. We start feeling suffocated, and we start recognizing that the relationship has become an addiction. Any other insights or awareness about what codependency feels like or has felt like for you in the past? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like all my traumas from my childhood and all the programs from my parents
Yeah.
were like mirroring me through any relationship I had, because it's just a mirror of yourself that you have inside.
Yeah.
Work on your own balance of your emotions.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of women, when I ask about codependency, they say, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know that I had a voice. Right? A lot of men, what they say is, I wasn't aware of what I was feeling. So generally speaking, this is a big generalization, of course. The women tend to kind of know what they're feeling, but they don't know how to say it. Or just they don't out of fear. They don't want to rock the boat. There is the nice little girl conditioning running the show. For a lot of men, the conditioning is vulnerability is a weakness. So why should I even get curious about what I feel? Because emotions are not safe. The male conditioning is I should not feel. That I'm trying to live like a robot. Because if I act and live like a robot, maybe everybody will think I'm strong. That's the male conditioning. What happens is that we stay numb because we're not in touch with what we feel. So if I don't know what I'm feeling, that means I'm actually not showing up as my true self. That's like the default functioning of a codependent relationship. We are actually not showing up truly as ourselves. We're not. We're kind of in a game of two. That after a while, it doesn't even feel like two, it feels like one. But it feels like one, but in a way that is fused, like we get unmeshed. Right? Only two halves make one, but we are not a half. We are a full individual. We need to be able to be one and one together. Right? Yeah. So healthy separation. And for us to know who we are, express what we want, for us to learn how to say no, hugely important. Because if I don't have a no, my yes will be somewhere between yes and maybe. What kind of yes is that? Either it's a full yes or it's a no. In a healthy relationship, we know this. Either I really want it or I don't want it. Right? So learning to say no is a huge part of healing from codependency, and healing from all the wounds that get us into this very confusing relationship stage that can be called codependency. Any other comments, questions, thoughts about what codependency has been for you, or was, or is now?
There's a neediness that comes with it.
Sorry?
There's a neediness that comes with it.
Neediness. We're clinging.
Yeah.
Like an addict. Yeah.
There's a need in me that's I'm getting fulfilled through you and not fulfilling myself.
Yeah. And I love this thing that's called shadow work. Who here has ever heard shadow work? Yeah, everything I do with people can be considered shadow work, but it includes trauma and healing and all the things. So in shadow work, the understanding is that I'm not aware of my own shadow. Other people can see my shadow, but I can see mine. So there are things in me, patterns, conditioning, whatever, that I'm not in touch with. Maybe I don't know my sadness. That means sadness is in my shadow. Maybe I don't know my shame at all. I've never been aware of it. I've never worked on it with anybody. My shame would be in my shadow. And in our shadow, there is also our bigness, our healthy power. So let's say I meet someone, right? And she's so beautiful, kind, whatever it might be. And I get so infatuated, right? So desire, sexual energy is there. Maybe we're kissing, or maybe after a few days we're having sex, whatever. Suddenly the hormones come up and my energy is all over the place. I'm thinking about her more and more. First 2 hours a day, maybe then 5 hours a day, maybe then later. I think, you know, I remember what you asked last time too. So, yeah. So let's say, right, infatuation and the newness and the freshness. Oh my God, the child in me is like going bonkers. The wounded child in us. We're going to talk about that a little more. That's the best part of the show, the child in us, because it's so hard to look at. Anyway, that's the wounded child. But I completely forgot what I was going. This is what happens in this space. So all the energies are okay. So, and then let's say I live with a lot of shame and a lot of fear. That means I'm not in touch with my true power, true self-worth as a human being. Not because I'm special, but natural self-worth of every human being. I'm not in touch with it because I carry a lot of unworthiness, not good enough, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of fear. Very likely through this dating process, because it's a very close relationship and sexuality is there, I'm going to project my own disowned self-worth and power onto this person and suddenly put her on a pedestal. Oh my gosh, she's so intelligent. I'm going to start telling everybody about this. I just met this woman. She's so intelligent. She's so beautiful. The way she can talk, like she speaks 3 languages, whatever. And suddenly I am creating through projection of what I have disowned within myself. Gets projected. I am in love or in lust, not even with her, but with my own image of the way that I perceive this human being. Not only am I not myself in this relationship, she's not even herself from my perspective. I'm not even in a relationship with her. I'm in a relationship, and that's why the addiction happens, because I'm actually addictively seeking my own power, my own self-worth that I disown and project onto her. And by being with her, somehow I'm going to feel more powerful. But this never works. That's why we have a lot of, this is a classic example. A disempowered woman who doesn't know how to say no, and a guy who's not in touch with his vulnerability, who is aggressive. This attraction is very quick between these two energies, because what one embodies, the other one is pushing away into the shadow. the woman is embodying vulnerability, even though not healthily boundaried. There's no healthy boundaries, but she is soft and she's tender and she's sensitive. And he actually longs for that in himself because he's completely shut down and aggressive. And the other way around. She looks at him and looks at his arrogance and his aggression, thinking that that's real power, that's true power. Or at least somehow she's not doing any of that. But there is an attraction because it's been projected. And there's a longing, she is longing for connection with her own power. So suddenly there's an undeniable attraction between these two. But they're not really themselves. They're not really fully as a full individual. They're not in touch with everything that they are. They are living their conditioning. So when they get together, their conditioning is having an affair. The conditioning of both people are in a relationship together. But the deeper layers of each person, it's not online, it's actually asleep. And the more painful this becomes, and sometimes abuse can be involved as well, the more quickly we wake up. So romantic relationships that don't go well are great awakeners because they bring up so much suffering. And then we look at it because somehow we feel like we have to. Yeah. So projection is a big thing. Projection means I'm in love with a fantasy. I'm not really in love with this person. I'm in love with the image that my psychology created about them in my mind. So it's all fantasy, it's all image. I'm reacting and I'm living out an imaginary relationship with an image in my mind instead of a real human being in front of me. Any questions, any comments so far?
Yeah, how you know that you cross your image, that you just learn to love the person?
How do we what? It's okay.
Thank you. How you know that you really just open your heart or know who is in your shoe and not your image?
Because when there is the image happening, right? That means I'm acting from my conditioning. When that person lives in a way that is contrary to the image in my mind, I get very reactive, right? Because the child in us is so desperately addicted, clinging to the image that he or she has of the other person. So when the other person suddenly disappoints us because they're a human being, they will always disappoint us. Suddenly we get extremely shocked and reactive and very, very disappointed. How big that reaction is, to that degree, I am in fantasy land. Because when we are not functioning from fantasy, we respond to situations instead of being reactive. Make sense? Yeah? So this could be a good yardstick. How reactive am I? How to not do that? Yeah.
When you're aware,
Yeah.
like I thought I was aware, but then I did it all over again. I was like,
Yeah, because our awareness in the beginning is an intellectual awareness, intellectual understanding. But all this stuff is happening in the unconscious. All is happening at the level of the body and emotion. That's why what I do is somatic therapy. So through healing work, we become so aware of the wounded child in us and everything that, like these days in my life, when the child in me comes up and kind of wants to take over my life, I can be aware of that because the child in me is not me. The child in me is me in a much younger developmental stage psychologically. And the child in me feels very different than the adult that I am. So to get really attuned to all this, what we do is what is called inner childhood. And it's really profound. And the healing that's available through that is a very deep thing, really deep. Yeah. So healing really is the answer. In other words, there's no very clear answer in one word or one sentence. The answer is a way of being in the world, and through embodied awareness. And also a huge thing is being aware of our emotions. It's massively important because emotions are felt. When it comes to embodiment and healing, we are really talking about emotions. Yeah, and to be a whole human being means to be in touch with all our emotions, all of them, because all of them constitute our humanity. So why deny any of it? Why try to pick and choose any of it? It's only the child in me that's trying to pick and choose emotions and labels some of them as negative, some of them as positive, some emotions as bad, some are good. But emotions are emotions, just like thoughts are thoughts. What matters is what we do with them. Emotions in themselves, they might be uncomfortable, but they are neutral. Just like the weather. Weather is neutral, but we might have preferences. But weather is weather. Yeah.
But if I got it right, you basically say to not project onto another, we need to heal in ourselves. But no one, just from, is there anyone fully healed in this world? So
I don't think
is
so.
there even a possibility to actually have a relationship that does not project, or is there just
Well, there
like
can be much less projection, and it's a moment-to-moment thing. Even in very awakened relationships, there can be projection, but in that moment, there can also be an awareness. Oh, you know what? Right now, the way I'm talking to you is just like the way I was talking when I was a teenager to my father or to my mother, and then I can apologize to my girlfriend. Hey, you know what? Like, this conversation actually brought up something from when I was a teenager, and suddenly you became my mother, and I got reactive. I'm really sorry. I can say that. Yeah. So we're not looking for some kind of perfection or cosmic finish line or this kind of ultimate enlightened stage. But what we're looking for is skillfulness in the moment, awareness in the moment, that tools that we can use in the moment to come back to awake living instead of being lost in the dream of conditioning and trauma reactivity, because it's a dream. Why is it a dream? Because the situation right now is not that. The situation right now is very fresh. It's a new situation. Yeah, so the more we work on our past, the more that we see that such a past doesn't exist. It's all here. It's really all here. And in romantic relationships, the closer the two people come, the more undeniable it becomes that my past is right here, right now, in the way that I talk, in the way that I move in the world. There's really no such thing as a past. It feels like through concepts we have a conceptual understanding, we call it past or whatever. But everything's right here. So everything, let's say I'm 40 years old, imagine me as a building of 40 floors. And I think that I'm living on the 40th floor. No, I'm not living on the 40th floor. I'm the entire building. You see? That's a very different perspective. I'm not living disconnected from everything on the 40th floor, but every floor is impacting the way that I live here because I'm the entire building. And we have a lot of earlier ages as different floors that need a lot of maintenance so that this building can be healthier, so that life energy can travel through from the ground up all the way to the top. And then this is also our wholeness. We can embody our wholeness when we are in touch with all the previous so-called, you can say, versions of ourselves, the younger versions of ourselves, all of it. Yeah.
Could you maybe some maybe have some red/green flags on how to realize that you're projecting or acting?
Yeah, let's say unhealthy intimacy or unhealthy patterns. Yeah, reactivity is a big one. If I'm getting reactive, if I'm suddenly yelling, but reactivity is not only aggression or yelling or screaming or whatever. Reactivity can also be a sudden shutting down, because that's also a reaction. We are not able to respond in that moment. We are reacting to the situation in that moment or to our partner's emotions or whatever they say by shutting down. So I'm disconnecting from myself. Or sudden feelings of loneliness, sudden feelings of hopelessness. These are the signs that the child in me is taken over. And in fact, the child in me needs me. More than anyone, the child in us needs us. right? In codependency, we are under the illusion that the child in me needs my partner. No, that's unhealthy attachment. That's addictive. No, the child in me needs me as the healthy parent to the child in me today. I am the healthy parent. And if my girlfriend is also the healthy parent to the little girl in her, then we are functioning more and more consistently from the adult that we are, instead of letting the child in us kind of destroy everything. Right? Either get connected in a way that is unhealthy, enmeshed, fused like this, or fight all the time, because that's what children do. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Do you think we as unhealed people, we seek out codependent relationships because we subconsciously know we need to hit those roadblocks and then look back on ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, without having to explain it so much, it just so happens that we find ourselves in another relationship.
Right.
Because we love love. And I think every human being, a lot of human beings, have a very deep longing to be in love, because it's our true nature. How can we not want that? It's impossible. So inevitably we are attracted to the next person. Inevitable. It's just that the question is, am I choosing my partner, or is my wounding choosing my partner? Is my conditioning choosing my partner? And with a lot of inner work, in the moment, it becomes a lot easier to know that. Yeah, to navigate in the moment.
I guess I'm thinking of people that aren't doing groups like this and don't know about what you're talking about. And
yeah.
They find themselves in a codependent relationship.
Yeah.
And they might figure that out, that they need to step out of a relationship and figure out what that.
Or get some support while they're still together.
Right.
Yeah, get some really quality support.
Right.
But the thing is, they need to be really committed to healing. Yeah. A lot of couples, when they come to me or when they go to other people, a lot of couples, they bring their partners, right? But that's not why am I there? Because I think my partner is fucked up, so I'm bringing her. No, that's not gonna work out so well. So individual healing is the most important thing. Individual healing. Can I face myself, right? That's the most important thing. Can I face myself? Can I look at my pain? Can I be honest with myself to begin with? Because that's the most important. Whether or not I'm single or partnered, not important. Am I healing? That's really the most important thing. Because through my healing, and if someone compatible comes along, the chances are higher that this will be a beautiful relationship. Only through my healing. Not because they are special. Right? When we no longer are waiting for that special somebody, we become capable of mature intimacy. Because I am not special. I'm not special. That's also the beginning of mature relationship. I'm not special. My partner is not special. We are human beings. There's nothing special about sacred intimacy. Sacred intimacy becomes possible only when we are no longer looking for anything special. What do you guys think about that? It becomes possible only when we are no longer chasing anything special. Not even like limitless orgasms in the bedroom or whatever. Well, just that we are no longer chasing. That means we are no longer desperately hungry to be somewhere other than here, to be somewhere other than now. Because now and here is the place where anyone has ever found anything. Now and here. It's not going to be found anywhere else. It will always be found right here and in this moment. Because it's already there. And it doesn't have much to do with the other person. Because they are not special. Just like we are not special. We are simply human beings trying to do our best. So with that comes a kind of humility that allows us also in moments of conflict to listen to our partner and sometimes to apologize. Because we are no longer in this fantasy land of specialness or trying to chase a feeling. Because ultimately love is not a feeling, because feelings come and go. But in sacred intimacy, love can be seen as all there is. There is a spiritual depth to everything we're talking about here. Yeah. So when we talk about sacred intimacy, we're talking about a container of relationship that two people create, where they want to honor and respect each other as profoundly as possible without losing themselves in the relationship. So they want to create a healthy relationship that feels safe more consistently than not. And within that, there's a possibility to see what being human is really about, almost as a spiritual realization, almost as looking at the face of God. It so happens that God is my partner. It so happens that through seeing God in her and as her, there's a possibility that I can see God everywhere. Everywhere. Literally everywhere. So there's a spiritual depth here because we're in the domain of love. And when love is healthy and connected and beautiful and honoring and respectful, it can open us up to cosmic love, to unconditional love, and recognizing love as the very substance of the universe. Everything is made out of love at a spiritual realization place. Yeah, it's not only Buddhist meditation paths that point to these truths, but in every religion and spiritual practice, there's all these absolute truths, the big truths. And it's possible for two people to come together and to feel connected to the social, their friends, their family members, the social circle. Because it's only in codependency that we are very limited in our, right? We are very limited in our bubble of two people. In codependency, we actually create walls around us so that no one can come and burst our bubble of fantasy. But in sacred intimacy, we are connected. We're not only connecting with each other, but because we connect with ourselves and each other, we are automatically connecting with pretty much all of humanity. Yeah, the bigger social context, the human race, the humanity as a whole. Because if I connect with my humanity inside, all the different emotions, automatically I become more compassionate with everybody else. So this container of sacred intimacy is a very connected container. It's not only about two people at all. It's like, yes, it's not polyamory in a sense. Yes, there's only two people committed to each other in this kind of sexual, emotional, romantic way. But through that connection, they go infinite. Through that connection, they don't try to become one as half and half. That's the codependency. Or they are also not doing the space thing. I have my space, like, no, I cannot meet on Saturday, or, like all this, always keeping the other person at an arm's length because we're so afraid of vulnerability. So in sacred intimacy, we are embracing vulnerability as a part of our humanity because we are vulnerable. And we no longer see it as a weakness. And yeah.
One question about how do we handle, like we were just having a conversation about having a sacred, intimate relationship means having a relationship of profound
Depth, yes.
Depth. But at the same time, how do we keep it light and easy? Because this is what you
profound depth can only be light. Because when you go that deep, there is lightness. Automatically. True depth is by default something very light. Because true depth doesn't mean we get lost in what we feel. It's not about getting lost in our emotions. Like really deep people like the Dalai Lama, they are fully embracing the child in them. Fully. So fully embracing that there's a light in their eyes all the time. There's such an innocence. Right? There's a spontaneity and innocence. So real depth, right then and there, the lightness is there already.
Yeah, but I don't really understand how that plays out. Like, for example, if we're in a situation where you said, I'm projecting on you right now, for example, I'm getting aware of that.
But
there is a way that I have to communicate or like step back, step out, and
yeah,
come back.
depending on how deep I've gone to that, depending on how deep I've gone to my healing, in that moment I might start laughing and say to my girlfriend, "Oh my God, I was just doing that old thing, wasn't I?" I might be laughing in them. I'm so sorry that, I might have a huge smile on my face as I say, "I'm so sorry, I just yelled at you. I completely projected my mom onto you 5 minutes ago." I might be laughing about it with the awareness that I just did that. So it doesn't have to be this incredibly serious thing at all. Yeah, it's not meant to be serious. It's sincere. The apology is still from the heart because I hurt her. But it doesn't have to be this thing that's like suddenly we got to talk about it for 2 hours. It's usually so quick. A profoundly healthy relationship is so quick. Things come and they are talked about very quickly. You don't get stuck anywhere because internally you're not stuck. You see, the deeper we go, the more things are fluid inside, and they're very fluid. They come and go very quickly. And the seeing of my own stuckness is very quick as well. Yeah. So things can get really hilarious, right? Even in moments where we get aggressive, we hurt each other. Things can have a lot of laughter. It only depends on how deep we go. So I would say depth is our friend. Go as deep as possible in every way possible, because there is the lightness. The lightness we're looking for is in the depths. They're not separate things. And the Dalai Lama is one of the most beautiful examples of that. He's aware of almost everything that's happening in the world. He's been an activist for 40 years or whatever, since he got kicked out from Tibet, right? And this guy is laughing all the time. How is that? That's incredible. That's depth. To me, that's depth. Because he's done his healing so deeply. There's only joy left. What else can there be? There's only joy. Yeah, even when anger comes, it's coming like the sky in which the clouds move, the sky in which the spaciousness in which anger comes and goes. That spaciousness is full of joy. And so anger comes and goes. And if I have to apologize, okay, I apologize. Yeah, and if there is something I need to look at, then maybe that day after the conversation, I'm going to go do some journaling. I'm going to deepen my awareness about maybe something I wasn't so aware of. But this doesn't mean somehow that I made a mistake and I should feel like a failure. That's the thing that no longer comes up. The toxic shame, the not enoughness. The I did something wrong, oh my God, I should be ashamed forever. None of that. That's drama. Drama doesn't come up, or it comes up to be seen very quickly. So sacred intimacy, the deeper we go, the less drama there is. And we just take care of things as they come. Less drama means more joy, more lightness. Yeah, but there is a lot of work to do. I would never minimize that. There's a lot of work to do for all of us. A lot. Yeah.
Does the lightness appear already on the path to depth itself, or is there
Yeah, sometimes.
Steps of
Like, let's say,
it doesn't feel light yet, but
let's say if you're really committed to a spiritual path, but you're really committed, sometimes the lightness comes first for people who are really committed. And then that lightness makes possible a deeper healing. Because once you have enough God in you, there is more space available for the healing of the deepest trauma. This is just one way that I can make sense of that. Once there's enough light, the so-called darkness has more space in which it can come to the surface to be seen also as light. What I used to think was darkness can come up to the surface now to be seen as light. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes through a spiritual practice, we access lightness, joy, innocence, all that before the pain surfaces. Yeah.
You mentioned it before, so I want to ask you, what's your take on open or polyamorous relationships within this?
My personal understanding of it and view of it. Well, about 2 years ago, I started feeling, at least for myself, that I'm starting to understand what sacred intimacy is. The clearer I'm getting about what sacred intimacy is and what it requires from us, and it requires a great deal of awareness, of working on ourselves, of profound communication with our partner, looking at things together for a long time. I just don't think it can be done with more than one partner. I don't think it can be done. Yeah. People try it sometimes, but I don't think it's possible. Yeah. At the same time, I also don't see any reason why. Because you see the sacred intimacy inside first. When the sacred intimacy is already happening inside of me, even if I'm single, there is such a feeling of being fulfilled already. Such a feeling of fulfillment then. I mean, one partner is more than enough already. There's already so much to work on, and the mysteriousness of another human being is already so profoundly delicious and full and unlimited, limitless. So there's one mystery here that is that way. Another is my partner. I just don't see any reason why to bring completely another human being into the mix with all their different dimensions and layers and everything. Yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah. Yeah. Another question? Oh, okay. So let's do a practice. Everyone find a partner. You're gonna be what brought you here today, the reason, or anything else you want to share. So it's just open space. Yeah.
I found it interesting. Like what brought me here was not what I was expecting at all.
Oh,
Like I thought it was gonna be so different.
okay. What did you think it was gonna be like?
I thought this was gonna be very much so centered about like masculine and feminine energies and how they balance each other.
We
But
can
it
do
was-
that.
But it was interesting
Yeah.
that it was more so just about relationship dynamics and
Right.
being able to reflect on yourself and see that. So
Yes.
although it wasn't what I was expecting, it's
Yeah.
still really, really nice to experience.
Well, I talk about yin and yang energies a lot. I don't use the other words about them, but let's talk about that. Yeah. Any other comment or someone? Yeah.
That just kind of sparks something in my head too. That's something I've pondered for a while, but I don't really. I feel like there's a lot of different, opinions on what is masculine energy and what's feminine energy.
Yeah, I never use those words because
Right.
the reason why, specifically is because it's so fucking confusing.
Right.
That's why there are so many opinions about it. They're actually so much more simple than anyone can imagine. Yeah, so let's make sure I'll talk about that. Yin and yang energies, yeah. And I love talking about it, actually. Yeah, anyone else who, comments or whatever came up for you during the share? Yeah. Who else would like to know a bit more about yin and yang energies? Yeah. So yin and yang, these words actually come from Chinese philosophy, but I really love these words. Yeah. So yin is getting in touch with our emotions. Yin is softening. Yin is when I close my eyes in meditation, letting the body soften, letting the breath become slower, leaving the mind behind, giving the mind a break. So yin is about softening. Yin is about getting in touch with ourselves. Yin is about stopping. And yin is also the roots of the tree, the roots that go deeper and deeper and deeper. Yin connects us. So in so many ways, we can say yin is also closely connected with the heart center, where we feel things deeply and where we relate to other people, where we connect with other people. So that's yin. So when we close our eyes and connect, and okay, now I feel sad, that connection with myself to feel my own sadness, we can call that a yin dropping in. It's hard to call it even an activity. It's more like I'm taking my attention and I'm connecting with myself. Does that make sense? Yeah, so yin is about softening, getting in touch with ourselves. Yang energy is like a sword. Yang energy says, let's go to this island this weekend. Yang energy is action. It says, we are going there. So in tango dance, the man is leading. That's what yang energy does. Yang leads. Yang says, we start at 4 p.m. and we finish at 5:15. That's what yang says. Yang brings clarity, structure, container. We know because the soccer game is 90 minutes. Nobody's confused about it. That's yang clarity. Soccer game is 19 minutes. We meet at this time. So that's yang. You see how yin and yang energy, they have to be dance partners for us to have a good life. Otherwise, our lives become very dysfunctional. Because if I'm only feeling my emotions and I'm not leaving my couch to do anything else, I'll die. If I'm doing everything, but I'm not yinning in, I'm not yinning in here, then I'm not in touch with myself. So in our world today, there's a lot of this. Anxiety can be seen as disconnected yang activity, disconnected action, anxiety, agitation. We are so afraid. We're doing and doing. We can never stop doing. So disconnected yang creates anxiety. They're the same thing. Depression can be seen like unhealthy yin. I am so collapsed, but collapsed is not healthy yin. Healthy yin is connected. It's not collapsed. Healthy yin is healthy resting. Depression is not resting. We're not really resting. Yes, we might not be doing anything, but we're not resting. It's not a restful state. So, any questions so far about yin and yang? They are often misunderstood. Yeah.
Do we have to have yin and yang in ourselves already in balance to, like, or is that something that keeps relationships running to basically that people are not balanced?
Yeah, I mean, yin and yang are very connected with our capacities. Like we were talking about saying no earlier, right? Saying no is a very yang thing to do. No, I don't want that. We just say it. No, I don't want that. Please don't call me after 10 p.m. I'm not available. Right? We call these boundaries. But when I share a boundary or a limit with someone close to me that I really care about, if I'm not in touch with my heart and with my vulnerability, then they're going to feel that I'm being guarded and rigid, and they're going to feel pushed away. That's why even in our yang boundary setting, we need to be yin connected so that I can say to my friend, hey, you know what? Like, you're always late without letting me know. And that really hurts me. Please don't do it again. So the moment I say, and that really hurts me, that yin, I'm connected with my yin and vulnerability. Otherwise, I can't say it. If I say to my friend, never be late again or else, this is not healthy communication. I'm threatening him. You see, these are directly connected with our capacities. Yin and yang energies are directly connected with our relational capacities. But not only relational, but also having a good life, having a healthy life, even asking for a promotion. I need to have yang sturdiness and courage to say, to want, to ask for it. Yeah. To go forward. Yang helps us go forward. It's an energy. Forward moving energy. Yeah. And yin is the connection. Yang is the leaves going up to the sky, to the stars. Yin is the roots going all the way to the core of the earth. We need both. A healthy tree is growing in both. Right? One is not without the other. Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments about yin and yang?
How do you think about polarity?
Polarity.
And how because we can adjust our yin and yang, and there's.
If we're trying to adjust yin and yang only in the name of polarity, that means we are strategizing about pleasurable sensation. You see, somehow we're trying to create an attraction that is not naturally there. I would rather be myself and connected to myself without trying to strategize about anything. That's why I don't like polarity teachings, generally speaking. The healthier polarity teachings tend to be more in the lines of become who you are so fully that whoever gets attracted to you will be attracted to you, and whoever you feel attracted to, and then you are attracted.
True, but like if in some certain situations like at work, you might need more yang energy. At home, you might be
Yeah,
this situation we might need to use more female energy.
totally.
How those energies interplay with other female energy.
Yes, but without necessarily thinking about in terms of how can I create polarity.
Yeah.
No, like what's the appropriate response here, right? That's
Yeah.
yes, because we want to be ourselves all the time, but we want to be also in healthy boundaries, and we want to behave depending on the context, but we don't want to ever be not ourselves, right? So does that make sense? Like we are always connected to who we truly are, and depending on the context, we know from inside what the healthy behavior might be. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, when it comes to attraction in a romantic relationship, I never talk about polarity or anything, because then for a lot of people, maybe not you, for a lot of people, they are trying to strategize about how to create attraction. If the attraction is not there, sexual or otherwise, the deeper question is, why am I not feeling turned on? Why do I feel turned off? And I can look at my turned offness, and what I might find there is maybe depression, maybe anxiety, maybe trauma. The deeper we go, the more turned on by life we become, just by life. And then when someone comes along who I also feel sexually attracted, then I'm already emotionally turned on in my own life. So things begin to flow in whatever way that they do. Yeah. So I would never say to someone, become more masculine so that a more feminine woman will want you. Never say that. I would never say that. You show up with who you are, as who you are. And then whatever works, works. And if something doesn't work, then maybe you move on. But you show up as you are, which is the only person you have, right? We don't want to, yeah, because there's, in this kind of field, I find, there's a lot of strategizing. How can I be somehow, in quotes, whatever the fuck that means, I'm more masculine as a man, so that I attract women more? Well, if I'm in my head about that, you see, when I strategize like this, I would rather be who I am and learn to show up more fully exactly the way that I am, instead of trying to think that I have to change myself in some way. Yeah, because there is a lot of that going on in some of these polarity teachings, I find. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. So showing up as who we are. How can I become more of that?
Heal the young energy in our daily life.
Sorry?
How can we heal?
How can you know?
Healing.
How can we heal?
Yeah, the young energy in our daily life.
Okay.
What kind of exercise can we do?
Yes. Everything. We can do everything. We can go work with a psychotherapist, go into trauma healing. We can do physical exercise. We can go for runs. Everything that's healthy. Physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually. All of that as a holistic path allows us to be more in touch with both yin and yang in us. But we already have these energies. So we're not creating them. We are only getting in touch with them. We all have them. Yeah. Does it make sense? Yeah. Physical exercise is an amazing practice to commit to as a lifestyle, for example, as well as very deep healing, as well as spiritual practice. Well, these three are incredibly transformative, especially if they're all happening at the same time. Like they're all happening, instead of us neglecting different dimensions of ourselves. Yeah. It's a big thing, right? Being human is not easy. I'm sure all of you have noticed that. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about space? We were talking about that before.
Space.
Yeah, like taking space, like how relationships nowadays tend to take more space. What's your take on that?
Yeah.
Why do you do it, and how to get not to take space, but to be
closer? That usually happens because we are afraid of vulnerability. Because the closer we get, the more we need to open up. What creates closeness is transparency, right? But transparency means sharing. Not so much sharing about what I ate yesterday. That's not what creates closeness. But sharing about my childhood. Sharing about what's a challenge for me. as I get to know someone. When we say this is my best friend, why do I call that person my best friend? Because they know the most about me. They know the most about me and the things that out of trust that I shared with them. So if out of trust we share, we get closer. But for that, we need to face our fear. Our fear of our own vulnerability. Our fear of commitment. Because commitment means I am investing. And the fear comes. What if I keep investing and they leave? Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. So as we look at all our fears, I find that we become more and more capable of sacred intimacy. Sacred intimacy is literally on the other side of a fear-based life.
Is there not such a thing like healthy space?
Healthy space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not drop into codependency, for example, or to get back to your own energy in that moment, or is that not a thing?
Oh, healthy space is definitely important. It's a beautiful thing. But in healthy space, when you ask for it, there's not going to be reactivity. And it's not out of fear that you're asking. You're just saying, hey, I'm going out with the girls tonight. Ladies' night tonight. You're not coming to your partner, whatever. Right? So that is also you taking your space.
But like coming, for example, to live together with a partner,
Yeah.
knowing, hey, I do better having my own bed in my own room, and you choose when we want to sleep in the same
For as
bed.
long as that's what you want and it works for your partner, who is to say that's the wrong thing to do? Of course you can do whatever you want. For as long as it's compatible with the partner, right? For as long as that's what works for you. Yeah. Then you go ahead and you do that.
How do you know it's not being
Right.
avoiding?
Yes, you can only know it through your own healing. Because only you can feel if it's based on fear. Because who else can say that? Right? Who else can know that about you? Only you can know. Is it based on fear or not? So the journey of healing has to go to such a degree where we know. I know what I'm doing and what is the motivator of it. If I'm functioning from fear, that I'm aware of it, right?
Just a so raw honesty with yourself.
So raw honesty, complete transparency, because the sacred intimacy has to happen inside too. We have to be intimate with all the different parts of us. Yeah. All the emotions, the wounded child and so all that. Yeah, so healthy space is a thing. Let's say in the middle of a big argument, huge conflict, I'm really angry. I might have to leave in that moment. To actually stay there in that moment might be unhealthy. I might have to leave. I might have to take healthy time out. But if I'm doing it in a healthy way, my girlfriend knows that maybe in 30 minutes or an hour, I am coming back. That's what makes it healthy. I am coming back. It's not a rejection of her. I'm not abandoning her. I just want to go for a walk. And then I'll be more ready to talk about it. This is also healthy space. Yeah, it doesn't mean we're doing everything together all the time. Yeah. Even though I think a lot of couples really enjoy doing a lot of things together, especially as they become less afraid of that. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. I'm writing a book about all this. Actually, the book is getting edited now. And so the book talks a lot about my own healing and why I talk about all this and all this. So it's about the last 20 years of my life.